Once again, welcome everyone here. Glad you made it, Susan. I understand the rain was slowing travel a bit, but we are gathered here this afternoon in a very unusual way. And I was thinking about the purpose of our gathering. A lot of times we think of a memorial service as something that we are doing to pay respect for, in this case, Kevin. And certainly that is a part of it. We're here to think about Kevin's life and to remember him, and somehow it's a way of showing respect to Kevin. But then I was also thinking about what it does for us who are left behind. And it is good for us to sometimes think about the life of someone who has passed and think about the fact that we also will one day be moving on. So let's do that today. Let's be thinking about not only Kevin, but let's also be thinking about the fact that we're only here for a time. I was thinking about this sobering fact, and I remembered about 5 years ago when we had the 50th anniversary of Faith Mission Home's beginning. Began in 1965, and it was the year 2015. And so we had a reunion of sorts, and the decision was made that this would be the last reunion, official reunion for Faith Mission Home. There used to be a reunion every 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. So the decision was that we'll have the 50th, that'll be the last one. After that, smaller groups can meet for their reunions if they want. So we had a big bash here. Many of you were here, and our big tent set up down at the park, and it was a 2-day event. People really enjoyed it. And the comments were coming during those several days that we need to do this again. And so the last evening, in jest, I made an announcement, and I said that, yes, we are reversing the decision that this was the last reunion. I said, mark your calendars, we're having another one in 50 years. And I gave the date, and of course people thought it was, they got a kick out of it. But Tom Abrams was there, and he made a very interesting statement. When I said in 50 years we're having another reunion, he said, we'll all be dead. Well, the truth of the matter is, in 50 years, I don't expect to be around. And a lot of you are younger than I am, but in 50 years, many of us will be gone. And it's good for us to reckon with that. But Tom was only partly right. We will die, but there's life after death. And that's the thing that I would like to think about today, is that we think of this as life, of being alive and being together here and breathing as being alive. But I want to tell you, there's something that's even much more alive than this. And that is when we who are prepared will resurrect and we will experience new life in heaven. And Jesus said in John chapter 11, verse 25, he said, I am the resurrection and the life. The one who believes in me will live even though they die. So, yeah, we think of death as an ending, but in reality, it is the beginning. That is when real life happens. And I believe that Kevin experiencing life in a way that he has never experienced before and that none of us have ever experienced.
I think most all of you know Tom Abrams. For anybody that doesn't know Tom, he has an amazing memory and can recall dates and important events in great detail. And it always blows my mind how he can do that. I'd like to ask him some questions about Tom to give us a little bit of an idea or a timeline of Kevin's days at Faith Mission. And I guess we'll start with when he was born. Tom, can you tell us when Kevin was born?
Nixon was president.
I'm sorry?
Nixon was president.
Okay, it was when Nixon was president.
Yeah.
What day was he born?
Thursday, May 8, 69.
Thursday, May 8th, 1969.
Right.
Okay, so when did he come to Faith Mission?
In 1976.
In 1976, do you remember what day it was?
That's free.
July 3rd?
Tom was 60 and Katrina was 12.
Who was 16?
Tom was 16 and Katrina was 12.
Conrad Heggie?
Yeah, he was 16 and Katrina was 12.
Okay, so Conrad Heggie, you were 16 and Katrina was 12, is that right?
That's right. And Clint Stevens was 4. And Clint Stevens was 4. If I say Clint Stevens was 4.
I don't know. I asked him these questions before and that answer hasn't come up, so I guess we'll have to verify that later. That's right? Okay. So you say Conrad 16, Katrina was 12.
Yeah, and Clint Stevens was 4.
Kev Stevens was 4.
Yeah.
Was Kev Stevens here already?
No, 9 years before he came.
I'm
9
sorry?
years before he came.
9 days before he
No,
came?
9 years.
9 years before he came,
Yeah, yeah.
okay. So, when did Kevin come to Faith Mission?
85.
85, what day?
April 10.
April 10th
Yeah,
of 1985.
okay.
Okay, so, you want to step a little closer to the mic?
Right.
Step just a little closer to the mic. Can everybody hear him okay? Who was the first person at Faith Mission to meet Kevin when he came?
Debbie Yoder.
David Yoder.
Yeah.
Okay. How old was David at the time?
Huh?
How old was David at the time?
21.
21.
Yeah.
When's David's birthday?
December 29, 54.
December 29, 54. What day of the week would that have been?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
Okay. So when Kevin came, what group of boys was he a part of?
The B-boy.
The B-boys?
Yeah.
Were there other boys in that group?
Tommy Goodall.
Who was it?
Jeff Bieber.
Jeff Beaver,
Tommy Goodall. Yeah, no.
Eric Outlaw, and who was the other one?
Tommy Goodall.
Tom
Goodlow.
Tommy Goodlow.
Yeah.
Okay, what about earlier today you had said something about Gary Castle.
Yeah, Gary Castle.
So it was Tommy and Gary
Yeah,
and Eric and Jeff.
yeah.
Okay. So Eric Outlaw and Kevin were really close friends pretty much the entire time they were here.
Yeah, that's right.
So who was here first, Eric or Kevin?
Yeah,
Eric was here first.
yeah.
When did he come?
75.
What date?
October 8th.
October 8th.
Yeah.
Do you remember about what time of day that would have been? You don't remember?
No.
So was Eric Outlaw older or younger than Kevin was?
Older.
He was older.
Yeah.
How much older?
About 15 months apart.
15 months apart.
Yeah.
How long was Kevin here, or how long was Eric here before Kevin came?
About 8 months.
8 months. Okay, so they came in the same year, or less than a year apart. Who was president
Ford.
when, Ford was president when Kevin came. Do you know when Gerald Ford's birthday is?
July 14th.
July 14th? What year?
13.
1913. Okay. Tom loves football. He memorizes who won all the Super Bowls. So who won the Super Bowl the year Kevin came?
The Steelers.
The Steelers did. Who did they play against?
Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Kevin a little bit more. Kevin came, he was a B-boy. Was he a B-boy the entire time he was here?
That's right.
The entire
Well, he
time?
came to Plum here in 91.
Okay, so he went to Poplar Hill in 91?
The deputy was 6 minutes at the time.
I'm sorry?
Deputy Yoder was 6 minutes at the time. Deputy Yoder.
David Yoder was assistant administrator.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the date that he went to Poplar Hill?
January 23.
July 23.
January 23.
January 23, what year?
91.
91, okay, and then how long was he at Poplar Hill?
4 days.
12 days, okay, and then where did he go?
To home again.
Back to the home. Was he a B-boy after that then again?
That's right.
So why did he go to Poplar Hill for 12 days and then come back?
Because you hear free box.
Okay, he says Kevin was playing with the fuse box.
Right.
So after he came back to Faith Mission in 91, was he a B-boy the rest of his life?
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so he was a B-boy. And who were the B-boys at the time when he came back from Poplar Hill?
Dan Clemens. Yeah, no.
Eric Outlaw and who else?
Dan Clemens.
Does somebody know who he is?
Gary Clemens.
Gary Clemens and Eric Outlaw. Was anybody else in that group?
No, Deputy Yoder. No, him.
Okay, and then later, David Furry joined him.
That's right.
Okay. And that pretty much brings us to current day, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of details in between, and we could probably spend another hour doing it, but if you have time sometime, catch Tom, ask him almost any question you want to about people, dates, and that type of thing. He usually has the answer for.
Good afternoon. Just so you know a little about the representation of the Sheltons. There are 8 of us, Kevin. Kevin was the baby. And my memory is not so good as Mr. Abrams. But we've been trying to figure out what year Kevin came here. My memory is 7. My sister's is 9. My brothers just, they don't have memory. This has been a difficult time, I'm sure, for you all as well. In so many ways, you are Kevin's family, and knew Kevin in ways that we never will. As a family, we are grateful to you. We thank you for your love of him. My brothers and sisters and I were with Kevin as he made his transition. It was not an easy process, as you can imagine. So the words today of Kevin's wholeness and completeness in this transition has been very comforting. I thank you for that. Kevin was a joyful spirit. I am shocked and will report to my family about all the work I saw Kevin doing in this video. He absolutely refused to do any work when he was home. I even saw him grating cheese, and I was like, seriously? Kevin made a beeline for the couch in front of the television the minute he got home, and he seldom got up from that place except to eat and to fight about showers and baths. We all have been sharing our memories about Kevin to his family. A story I will tell you, one of my brothers, my mother and father had 2 girls, then 2 boys, then 2 girls, then 2 boys. My second senior brother was in the Air Force, and when he came out of the Air Force, he became a pilot. So he's always been around airplanes, and you all know Kevin's love of airplanes. Kevin loved airplanes from afar. Every time Freddie would take him to an air show, my cousin has a Cessna, he'd take him up to the airfield to check out Kevin would not go near it. So he was an arm distance admirer of airplanes for his entire life. He also loved to sing, and my entire family sings. We either have musicians or singers. And Kevin loved to dance. He did a lot of that with me when we were home, when he'd come home for holidays. I held Kevin as my own, that before he came to Faith Mission, I was his primary caretaker. And Daddy and Mommy would always assign his caretaking to me. I remember years of wanting to go outside and play, and I had to watch Kevin, and I'd be somewhat resentful, and we would argue, and all he would ever say it again, and I'm going to tell Mom. Say it again, and I'm going to tell Mom. And he would always tell on me, and I would always get in trouble. I give anything for those days back now. You all, again, I just want to extend on behalf of my family our gratitude for who this community was for him. I got to meet Eric, and I remember Eric, I just didn't know his name. Like many of the residents here, I remember their face, I know them. When my mother used to come and pick Kevin up when he was quite small, this community looked nothing like this. Like coming up through Crozet, it was pretty much woods and houses dotted throughout. And now it's this major suburb. Now I'm 61, and Kevin was 51 when he passed, and I marvel at the changes that occurred. But that which touched me most was that picture of him, I'll say when he was 7 or 8 that you have. That's the precious young one I recall, and I remember, and I loved very dearly. I pray that his soul is soaring. My brother, second senior brother, stayed with him. It was difficult for me to watch his transition, so I went back to the hotel. And I want to share with you, Freddie said that Kevin wouldn't let them give him pain medication. So he was in a good deal of pain. And Freddie said he sat up in bed at 3:30 in the morning and very clearly said, Freddie, I have to go now. I have to go take care of myself. And he moved into that next stage of transition. And so I'd gone back to the hotel, and so when Will and Eric came, I went back to the hospital. And not soon after they left, when they knelt by his bed and we all prayed together for Kevin, Freddie said his breathing was labored. And he said he called out, Mama, Mama. And he took 3 more breaths and he passed from here. I have made up that my mother and my dad and my 2 senior sisters were there waiting for his crossover and welcomed him into his completeness that I trust he is in this moment. My nephew, Jesse Chavis, is in the back of the room. He's a 6-foot distancer, so don't be offended. But he brought me here today, and I'm very grateful that he did. And we both, again, want to thank you all very much. And I look forward to chatting with some of you after this is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan, for coming, and yeah, on behalf of the Shelton family and for your nephew for bringing you. I don't know what to say exactly. Yeah, I took Kevin, I've been here for 11 months now. I took Kevin in the middle of June. So I didn't have him super long, but I did float quite a bit before I took the group. And something about when you go through a hard time with somebody it draws you closer to them. And yeah, so Kevin's passing has definitely left a huge hole in my life and in the B-Boys and in Faith Mission. I thought I would maybe just like go over a normal day with Kevin, just real quickly, just to give you an idea of what we did. So we had after breakfast and devotions at 8 o'clock. Kevin would run straight back to Boys Inn. He was never one to hang out in the hall and tell everyone good morning. He always went straight back, and I knew he would be laying on Jared's bed waiting for me. And so we would go back and sit on the bed, talk about the day, talk about what was going to happen in the day, sing a song or two, pray, and then we would go brush teeth. And always brush his teeth first, and then he would head right out of the bathroom. I always asked him, Kevin, where are you going? And he would always say, dining room. So I knew he was headed straight to the dining room, and he would start sweeping. And sometimes he would go on little errands here and there while he was on the way out, maybe go visit Kara or the secretary, whoever it happened to be, and get her to write something on a paper for him or whatever. He always grabbed all of the dustpans and brushes. It was like 4 or 5 of them, and would stack them up on the heater just right. And he only ever used one, but he always grabbed them all. And he always had a broom waiting for me when I would get done with taking the trash out with David. But yeah, he was, and then after that, we would go run track for a while, then go down to the staff house, do the dishes, and Kevin would often pick up a stick on the way down to the staff house and start peeling it. For some reason, he loved to peel sticks, and so I wish I would have saved one, but he had a lot of them. I could probably still find some around here somewhere if I looked. But 10 o'clock we'd come up for juice break, and then right on the money, 10:15 every day, he would jump up and head back to Boys End again, and be back there sitting on the bed, waiting, because it was our devotional time after that. So we would go back and have devotions and head down to home ec at 10:45, and he would grate cheese. I don't know how many hundreds of pounds of cheese he's grated, maybe thousands, I don't know, but he would grate a lot of cheese. He was just like a machine, just the whole time. And so that lasted till 11:30, and then they'd go up to Boys End, get ready for lunch. After lunch, at 1:15, we would go out and start cleaning up the kitchen and dining room. And I didn't really have to tell him to do anything usually. For sure, when I was new, he knew more about the process than I did. So he would push all the sugar and the flour bin out, collect all the stools, haul them out in the dining room, and be sweeping away in the kitchen. And if I forgot to turn the music on, he made sure to remind me.
Smiles in my heart in pain. Then my Lord from heaven above speaks to me in tones of love, wipes the tears away and makes me smile again. I need no mention here below, for Jesus said that I could go to a home beyond the clouds, not made with hands. Won't you come and go along? We will sing the sweetest song ever played upon the harps in glory land. Oh, the thought to me is sweet that my loved ones I will meet at the ending of the journey here below. Seems I hear their voices blend in a world without an end. I won't worry when my time shall come to go. I need no mention here below, for Jesus said that I could go to a home beyond the clouds, not made with hands. Won't you come and go along? We will sing the sweetest sweetest song ever played upon the harps and glory land.
It is really good to be here today, and I've just been thinking about how amazing it is to have this amount of support. And I want to say thank you to the Formers for coming and being here. Thank you for the prayers that you have prayed for Kevin and for all of Faith Mission the last couple of months. Those prayers are felt a lot. I also want to thank Susan and Jesse for making it here, for coming. It's really special to have you here. Kevin talked about you, Susan, a lot. When we were in the hospital, he kept asking, when is Susan coming? So thank you for coming and being here today. And I want to thank God for who he has been. He has been very real and very faithful throughout the last little bit with Kevin's passing. And yeah, I've just been thankful for the ways that he has worked. Lots of little miracles. He's been very, very much here with us. I wrote a little tribute to Kevin. I'm going to read. Kevin, it's the most amazing thing to think of you singing your heart out in heaven. I can imagine you swinging your arm and trying to get everyone else to sing along with you in worship to God, just like you did while you were sweeping the kitchen floor at Faith Mission. You had an amazing voice, switching from your deep bass to your high falsetto. I can imagine you dancing with joy before God's throne as you realize the freedom you have from your earthly body. Kevin, I'm so happy for you that you are now free from the limitations you had down here. I'm a little bit jealous that you get to be with Jesus. I don't doubt that he is happy to have you there with him. Psalm 116:15 was a verse I ran across this week that I thought was really fitting for Kevin. Precious in the sight of the Lord is the death of his saints. And we all miss him a lot down here. But it's so fun to think of God up there rejoicing that Kevin is finally home and in his perfect body. As Nicole usually says, praise God for me, okay? It's always hard to watch suffering, and Kevin was no exception. I was thankful he did not have to suffer longer than what he did. But it did leave us grieving and wishing for just a bit more time with him. But it was a gift to him that he did not have to suffer long. In his last couple of weeks, it was a privilege to walk with him, be a part of caring for him. And there was something that I thought about a lot, that I've thought about a lot since. I had him in the hospital for a test of some kind. And it was just him and I in there, and he was supposed to lay down on a table, flat on his back. But for some reason, he did not want to do that. I'm not really sure why, and so the nurse did part of the test, and then she said, well, we really need him to lay on his back or at least flip over. So I was trying to convince him to do this, and he didn't think he could. So finally he said, shall we pray? And I was like, okay, we're right here in the middle of this test, but you know what? Yes, we will pray. So we did. He did not lay on his back, but the nurse was able to find another way to do it. And that has blessed me a lot. I think he did that a lot in his last several weeks. And yeah, just the simple faith that he had, he knew that God was real, God was there, and he knew God could help, even if we were in a pickle. I remember one time I was passing meds one morning, and I would give Emergency, the little vitamin C packets, to the residents who had colds and stuff. So I was handing those out, and I got to table 5, and he thought he wanted one too. So he said, "I want emergency room." I said, "No, Kevin, you don't want emergency room." Yeah, we miss all of his, just the little things he did around here. He was such a fun part of Faith Mission. Singing a lot. He did that, yeah, quite a lot. Forevermore planning food and vehicles for annual picnic, asking for hay rides or a trip to the doctor. There were times when he would even ask for a shot because he was so hard up to go to the doctor. He didn't actually like getting them, but
it has been good to be here. How do you reflect on somebody that has been such a big part of your life? I came to Faith Mission as a staff in November of 16, and Kevin was the first resident that stood out to me. He intimidated me like crazy. His size, I was scared of him, to be really honest. But when I left in April of 18, he was by far my favorite resident. By far he had changed my life the most while I was here. As far as his being his child caretaker, out of all the boys, I think we had to work the most together, and it was great. I wouldn't trade anything for it. He was the life of the B-Boys. We've heard many great stories of his singing and dancing. It was all part of his life there. Some of the things that will be no more is the great, gigantic bear hugs. The big, loud welcome backs after you've gone away. No more pretty leaves given to the admin ladies. I thought of that today as I saw the colored leaves on the ground. On his walk up from the hill, he'd grab a leaf and take up to one of his people. Those are all things that I would miss if I was a current. I will miss even going back. He still remembered me the last time I came back. But just picture Kevin now. I guess that's the memory that I want to think of. All we have to do is imagine, because we don't know much about heaven, but it's a great place. Just picture Kevin now. And we know without a doubt that Kevin is happy in glory. I have a few memories, really good memories of Kevin that I want to share. And one of those is Perfect Kevin. I'm not sure how many months I had the group for, but I looked out the kitchen window one day. We had a break from classes. I think craft teacher was off, so it was after shower time. And we had a break. And I saw Kevin on the green bike up at I don't know if the green bike is still up there, cruising around the parking lot. I had no idea that he rode bike. That was a very good memory, but Kevin never just got on the bike and rode. First off, he put his handlebars way up, Then he'd get a stick or something, stick in the side for his, I guess, his muffler. And he rode it in the fashion of riding a motorcycle. I mean, it was just perfect. Kevin would spend a long time just riding in a circle in the back of the volleyball court, just riding around. And ever after that, when we had a break, Eric and I would throw football and Kevin would ride bike. Those are good memories. One time, we were setting the dining room table for supper, and there was a helicopter that flew into the town, or flying overhead. It was flying really low. Kevin heard that thing a mile away. He was sitting on the couch, up and off the couch, tearing outside, just hollering about this helicopter that was flying around. And he would go in and grab each one of the staff, and you just went with him. He'd grab them out, take them outside, and show them the helicopter. Kevin's love for airplanes. Oh, he also would talk, oh, that was Freddie up there. I'm assuming Freddie was the pilot. Talk about Freddie up flying his airplane, his helicopter. You know, one day we were having a struggle in the morning. Seemed like Kevin was trying to tell me something. Kevin can communicate, but he always can't communicate exactly what he's thinking. And I couldn't quite get what he was trying to tell me. And I tried the guessing game. Kevin, you know, is it this? It wouldn't settle him. And just couldn't get what was wrong with him. He was just kind of had a low mood. And I said, Kevin, I said, someday we don't understand each other, do we? I said, you probably think I can't communicate, and I think you can't communicate. I said, that's probably true. I said, but sometime in heaven, it will make sense. I told him to talk to Jesus about it because he does understand. And I don't know anything if Kevin talked to Jesus that day or not. But all I remember is we had one of the best days at Faith Mission after that talk. After I told him that in heaven we will understand. He will understand me. He will understand what I was trying to approach. And today, Kevin does understand, full of understanding. That was a talk that I'll never forget. I'm not sure where this story came from. The details are a little bit different, but I'll just tell the story. I'm not sure who he was talking to. That's what I should say. But his comment was, I think he was leaning against the truck. He's like, let's do something sensible, like take the Taurus and go to town. I think he was talking to me. I forget who he was talking to. That was a very funny memory. He always liked to take the Taurus or the vans, line all the vans up. And like I said before, whenever you were gone, you were met with a welcome back or a welcome home. And one evening I was working the late, and we were standing out on top of the fire escape there at the top of the home. We could look down and see the church, and program trip people had got back in their bus just at that time. And I would sit there telling him, hey, Kevin, yell louder. Oh, he'd scream at the top of his lung, welcome back! Such good memories. And he would name the few people that he knew was on the trip. You know, there's so many good memories, but I'd just like to take a little bit of time to let our imaginations run about heaven. I don't want to take away from the glories of heaven. I don't want to undermine heaven. But I like to think of Kevin in heaven, waiting for us to come home. When Kevin would leave on a special trip, anything, he would look forward to annual picnic, but he was always ready to be back. And the minute he'd be back, he'd go right back into his schedule again. Kevin loved being home. He liked going away, but he loved coming home. Today, Kevin is home, and I thank God for that. You know, I don't know what heaven's like. I like to imagine things. I like to imagine if Kevin thought annual picnic cheeseburgers were good, what they must be like in heaven. As we all know, Kevin liked cheeseburgers and chips. I don't know. But I have a feeling that if we're faithful, when we get home to heaven, we'll hear Kevin, "Welcome home," scream out above everyone else. I like to think that. Also, another great memory is the way he took care of the other residents. And I don't know how much in the recent years he took care of George. When I was there as staff, George was his guy he took care of a lot. He would lead George, take him by the hand, take him everywhere. I mean, if you put him with George, he took care of him well. Just a special memory for myself. I wasn't sure if I was going to share it. 3 weeks ago, my nephew was killed in a car accident. Year and a half year old. A couple of days later, Kevin passed on. I just like to picture them two in heaven together, making the connection. Let's be faithful. Let's endure to the end.
Good afternoon. I'd like to once again welcome everyone here. Glad you made it, Susan. I understand the rain was slowing travel a bit, but we are gathered here this afternoon in a very unusual way, and I was thinking about the purpose.
Jeff will sing all 3 verses of Hallelujah Square. We'll join in on the chorus, and on verse 2 and verse 3, we can all hum, 4-part humming, and then join in the chorus. And we don't have a paper, but I think Jeff knows it by memory,
I think I do.
and I'll try.
I knew it by heart.
You knew it by heart. Good.
I've been studying it.
You've been studying. So again, Jeff will sing verse 1. We'll join in on the chorus. Jeff will sing verse 2 and 3 while we hum during the verse and then help sing the chorus.
Ooh, I saw a blind man tapping along, losing his way as he passed through the door. Tears filled my heart. I said, "Friend, you can see." With a smile on his face, he replied to me, "I'll see all my friends in Hallelujah Square. What a wonderful time we'll all have up there. We'll sing and praise Jesus, His glory to share. And you'll not see one blind man in Hallelujah Square." Now I saw a cripple dragging his feet. He couldn't walk like we do down the street. I said, "My friend, I feel sorry for you." But he said, "Up in heaven, I'm gonna walk just like you. I'll see all my friends in Hallelujah Square. What a wonderful time we'll all have up there. We'll sing and praise Jesus, His glory to share. And you'll not see one cripple in Hallelujah Square. Now I saw an old man gasping for breath. Soon he'd be gone as his eyes closed in death. looked at me, said, "Friend, don't look so blue, for I'm going up to heaven. Now how about you? I'll see all my friends in Hallelujah Square. What a wonderful time we'll all have up there. We'll sing and praise Jesus, His glory to share, and we'll all live forever in Hallelujah Square."
Thank you, Jeff. At this time, we'll have a reading of a tribute or an obituary by Jonathan Martin. After that, we're going to have one more congregational song led by Wilson, and then I will have the closing. So, Jonathan.
Kevin Dondrell Shelton, 51 of Free Union, Virginia, passed away on Sunday, September 20, 2020. He was born on May 8th of 1969 in Martinsville, Virginia, to the late Thomas Edward Shelton Sr. and Evelyn Penn Shelton. Kevin is survived by his siblings Thomas E. Shelton, Brenda, of Raleigh, North Carolina, Frederick D. Shelton, Deborah, of Lansing, South Carolina, Mitzi S. Reed, Mike, of Martinsville, Virginia, Susan R. Shelton, of Oakland, California, and Jerry M. Shelton, Sandra, of Alexandria, Virginia. In addition to his siblings, he is survived by numerous aunts, uncles, nieces, and nephews. Also surviving Kevin are his fellow residents of Faith Mission Home. Heartfelt condolences to his sidekick, Eric Outlaw, and each one of the residents who have lived most of their lives with Kevin Shelton. Kevin arrived at Faith Mission Home at the age of 7 on July 3rd of 1976. The empty spot belonging to Kevin is keenly felt by the staff body. Hundreds of volunteers who did life with Kevin over a span of 44 years have no trouble remembering him fondly. Overflowing reverence and gratitude to our Heavenly Father, who has received Kevin Shelton into a home that is infinitely better than all the airplanes, annual picnics, cheeseburgers, party mix, and cheese curls in the world. Kevin no longer needs to wait and see, which is the oft-used phrase at a home full of people who have an intense interest in what's going to happen next. Kevin, with his exuberance and childlike love that matched his great physical stature, we loved and enjoyed him. How much more does Jesus welcome Kevin home with arms open, a smile, and love we can only begin to fathom. Jesus, J-E-S-U-S, you are the one that Kevin loved to sing about. And just personally, I want to express my gratitude for the privilege of being involved in Kevin's life. I cared for him I was his primary caregiver for about 2 years, starting in 2001. And then the last number of years, I'd had the privilege of having him stop by here and there. When he finished a project in craft class, he would bring it around to show his project and get little treats for it. Much as he loved food, when he came to the front office, he always wanted a piece of paper. And so we would have a little talk about what he wants me to draw on the piece of paper, and we'd usually draw a cheeseburger, and then we'd talk about all the fixings we'd draw onto it, and then I'd ask him what kind of pop he wants, and he'd decide either Mountain Dew or Coke, and so he'd draw that on the paper, and then we usually add some fries to it and decide if it was good to be McDonald's or Burger King. And then he'd happily go on his way with his collection. So we're going to we've been feeling that difference and will continue to feel the difference of Kevin not being with us, but I echo the gratitude that we can have in our hearts that he's experiencing something much better. God bless you.